Nina, one of the most hated characters in Berserk. I've seen people actually despise her more than Griffith. Yes, you heard that right. And personally, I have no issue with people that hate Nina. Miura clearly created and wrote Nina to be hated. In this video, I want to show all Nina haters a different perspective on her character and importance in the arc, as when you examine Nina more deeply, she's such a unique character and she's crucial to the theme of the Conviction arc Birth Ceremony, the theme being about survival. Some of you might think, wait, isn't this arc about religion? And yes, Moskis and the Holy See definitely embody that religious obsession, and even then, I believe that also ties into the theme of survival, which I will get into later. But even then, a story can have multiple themes. Berserk does this constantly. Each arc explores multiple themes layered on top of one another. In the Conviction arc, Birth Ceremony, I believe the main theme is survival, and this theme is perfectly illustrated through the four main characters of this arc: Guts, Luca, Nina, and Farnese. All four of them depict different ways of surviving in a world that's hostile, merciless, and doomed. Guts survives through sheer willpower, rage, and inhuman strength. He pushes forward no matter the cost, and his survival is a testament to the human spirit when it refuses to break. Luca represents a different kind of survival: community and solidarity. She survives not through power, not through faith. Even in the midst of plague and persecution, she holds people together, not by abandoning them, instead helping each other. Farnese, at this stage in the story, survives through fear. She hides it behind cruelty, authority, and blind devotion to the church. She burns people not because of faith, but because she's terrified of the unknown. She lashes out to maintain control over a world that scares her. In other words, Farnese survives by turning her weakness outward, projecting her insecurities into violence and dominance. I'm still jealous she got to whip Guts. And then there's Nina. Nina is unique because she strips survival down to its most uncomfortable real-world level. As unlike Farnese, who hides it all, with Nina, it's all bare for us the readers to witness. She's the one that drags all of that down to the most uncomfortable level, as it's just so real. She embodies traits of both Guts and Luca, but in a fragile, unstable, deeply human way. Like Guts, she's a survivor, except she doesn't have the strength, skill, or anger to fight her way through. Like Luca, she has moments of bravery and decency, but those moments come and go because fear and desperation constantly overwhelm her, and that's why she's so hard to look at. Nina is the mirror Miura holds up to the audience, because let's be honest, not everyone is going to be a Guts, not everyone is going to be a Luca. Most people, when faced with plague, colds, torture, death, and total hopelessness, aren't going to rise up with steel resolve. They're going to panic, they're going to break down, they're going to make selfish, cowardly choices. And that's Nina. She's the one who reflects the ugliness of ordinary human survival. Strip off the romanticism we like to project onto characters like Guts or Luca. I don't think Miura just accidentally made a character that people hated. I think he intended Nina to be hated because the hatred tells us something about ourselves. It's easier to condemn Nina than to accept that under those same circumstances, a lot of us would act just like her. But this is where the beauty of her character shines, as it's not just Miura holding a mirror going, "Look, this is you readers, pathetic." Miura doesn't judge survival as a moral absolute. In fact, the end of the arc spells this out beautifully. Jerome saying, ironic, those who clung to God and hid in the refugee ended up dying, and it was the non-believers who didn't die. But then Luca dismisses that, as that's not what Miura is trying to tell us. Haha, religion. Instead, Luca's quote is this: trying to go on living is different than trying to escape from fear. Those who acted in order to live until the end without losing themselves to fear and what was happening around them are the ones who survived properly. And it's why I believe this is the main theme of this arc, as we get four different perspectives through Guts, Luca, Farnese, and most importantly, Nina. And I truly believe Nina's perspective is the most interesting, because at this point in the story, we didn't fully understand Farnese's weakness yet, as her backstory wasn't revealed yet. But with Nina, she embodies the uncomfortable side of survival. She forces us to recognize that not all survivors look like Guts or Luca. Some of them look like her, shaking, failing, crawling through life in shame, and that makes her essential to the arc. But what really seals Nina as such a fascinating character for me is her ending in the Conviction arc. After everything, after her betrayals, her collapses, her constant fear, she survives. Not triumphantly, not transformed into a stronger or nobler person, but just alive. And her final decision is both tragic and brutally honest and beautiful. She chooses to leave Luca and the others behind. Miro doesn't treat her with contempt. He gives her an arc of brutal honesty. She doesn't redeem herself by becoming brave like Luca. She doesn't gain a mask of authority like Farnese or gain strength like Guts. Instead, she gains something much rarer in Berserk: self-awareness and acceptance. As we all know, Berserk characters be suffering from that, and once they finally do become self-aware, it's always too late. Guts, Griffith, and Casca are big examples, but with Nina, it wasn't too late. Nina came to know herself. She knows that if she stays with Luca, she will eventually come to hate her again. She'll resent Luca's strength, her unwavering compassion, her ability to be the person Nina can never be. And rather than let that poison build, Nina walks away. She chooses instead to be with Joachim, another weak person like her, someone who mirrors her fragility. This moment is so important because it shatters the redemption arc expectation. Miro doesn't let Nina suddenly become a Luca 2.0 or magically become brave. That would have been dishonest. Instead, Miro gives her the most human development possible: self-awareness and acceptance. Nina accepts her weakness, accepts her limits, and thematically, that choice ties right back into the arc's exploration of survival. Guts survives by pushing himself beyond his limits. Luca survives by holding on to her ideals no matter what. Nina survives by finding a way to exist within her limits, by admitting she can live like Luca, and decides to live with someone like her, because maybe, just maybe, they both will give each other some strength. Survival isn't clean, and it isn't always noble. Sometimes survival means recognizing your own flaws and building a life around them. Nina doesn't transcend her weakness, she embraces it, and in doing so, finds a fragile peace. Because if the Conviction arc is about anything, it's about how people endure, whether by clinging to religion, by clinging to strength, or by clinging to others. And Nina's ending shows us that even the weakest have a place in the world. And what's more interesting is that unlike everyone else in the arc who clung to something to keep on surviving, Mosque survives by surrendering himself to God, Farnese survived by doing the same, Luca survives by believing in people, Guts survives by sheer defiance, but Nina survives without anything. She doesn't have some god she believes in, she doesn't have faith in others, she doesn't even have faith in herself, she only has instinct. That makes her so terrifying to watch throughout the entire arc, but also so fun as well. And what makes Nina even more fascinating is that she isn't just a character locked into the Conviction arc, she's a prototype for something Miro would explore later in Berserk: the psychology of people under Griffith's new world. Think about Falconia. When Griffith establishes his kingdom, the rest of humanity flocks to him because he provides safety, order, and purpose in a collapsing world. People cling to him the same way Nina clung to Luca, or anyone who felt stronger than her in the moment. They surrender responsibility for survival and hand it over to someone else. They hide their fear under devotion. But here's the kicker: Nina is more honest than the people of Falconia. She doesn't pretend her clinging is noble or righteous or divinely inspired. She knows she's selfish. She knows she's weak. She knows she'll betray people if it means sparing herself. Where the masses in Falconia project their survival instinct into worship of Griffith, masking it with faith and gratitude, Nina lays it bare. She doesn't dress it up. And also the fact that Nina isn't living in Falconia makes it even better. That's why it's hard at times to watch her doing the story, but also why she's so important. Her arc is not about triumph, it's about exposure. She exposes a part of human survival: instinct, fear, selfishness, the stubborn refusal to die, and that ties beautifully into her choice at the end. Nina doesn't get a redemption arc. She doesn't turn into someone else. She simply accepts who she is and finds a way to live within those limits. That kind of honesty is rare in Berserk. Most characters lie to themselves until it destroys them. Guts tells himself hatred is enough, Griffith tells himself he's free of desire, Farnese tells herself her faith has strength, etc. Nina, for all her flaws, actually finds a kind of peace through accepting her weakness. From my perspective, she's one of the most important characters we gotten in Berserk, because she shows us that survival isn't just for the strong, or the faithful, or the noble, it's also for the frail, the ashamed, and the broken, and I myself could see a little bit of myself in her. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Always wanted to talk about Nina, as it blew my mind when I googled her years ago and saw the immense hatred for her, and people wanting her gone. So if anyone who watched this video is one of those people, I hope you gain a new perspective, as I truly believe she's such a cool, important character. So I hope you enjoy the video. Bye!